What's up, everyone? We hope everyone's doing well. We're back with another episode of the Double S NFL podcast. After our hiatus, I've just been pretty busy as of late, so we're looking forward to getting back into the swing of things. Have some football on tap, and also in honor of the NBA playoffs, we have a little NBA prediction segment. So, without further ado, let's get things off on the road. So, we're gonna talk today about NFL free agency winners and losers. A mock draft which will switch off turns, NFL mock draft, and then our very own NBA playoff predictions. So Sam, for you, before I get into mine, NFL free agency winners, who are four of your winners and why?
Atlanta. One of them is Atlanta. I love the moves that they made. I liked bringing Jesse Bates from Cincinnati. And overall, they made a bunch of low
I
key.
honestly like the Okuda move a lot. It's a low risk, high reward move that I think the front office like really took advantage of what of Detroit there. It's a rare bad move on Brad Holmes' part there. And I think Okuda could have a pretty big role in that Atlanta secondary, believe it or not. Um um so for me, one of the teams that I loved their offseason so far are the Houston Texans. Did they make any splashy signings? I don't believe so.
No,
However, Nick Casemiro, their GM, is doing a tremendous job, in my opinion, with what he's given. They're not going to be this great playoff team next year, but if they win 7, 8, or even 9 games, it would not shock me at all. Devin Singletary, he's a solid complementary running back, backs up Damian Pierce really solidly. Even though he's pretty slow, he still has some power. He still has some power. His vision isn't terrible. And with Damian Pierce, I think they're a formidable 1-2 punch. Dalton Schultz, he's nothing special, but he's an above average tight end, and he's miles and miles better than what they had last year. And I think for a rookie QB, he can be a good security blanket. And then Sheldon Rankins, I like a lot. Former Jet defensive tackle. He's just an overall pretty solid player. They didn't pay him too much either. What do you think of Houston's offseason as a whole?
it's a decent off season. Nothing more, nothing less. I don't think they're going to be very good next year, but they should improve off of what they were last year. Everyone knew that they were trying to tank, albeit they failed at it. But
They failed at it, but in a way, they're still going to get one of the two highly touted quarterback prospects in this
oh,
class.
obviously,
Yeah, so I don't think they really failed at it. My favorite to come out of the NFC North next year, as of now, the Detroit Lions and Dan Campbell squad. Man, do I love what they're doing this offseason. Sam, take it away on the Lions offseason.
yeah. What more can you say? They added Sutton. They added Johnson. Is that C.J. Mosley or is
No, Emmanuel Mosley. So
Manuel
yeah,
Mosley?
yeah. And the main reason I truly love the CJ Gardner Johnson signing is not what you think it is. He's back with Aaron Glenn, who he's extremely familiar with. That
You
means
worked with him in New Orleans, correct?
yeah, New Orleans. He was the DB's coach there, now the D coordinator in Detroit. And I think with familiar being familiar with that scheme there, I think it's going to be really beneficial for him just to acclimate right away. And I think he's going to have a day one impact. Emmanuel Mosley, I don't think he's a top corner in the league by any means, but he was always like a stout part of that San Francisco defense under Robert Saleh, under D'Amico Ryans, and I think he's going to have a crucial role in that Detroit secondary. And then we all know Dan Campbell. What are your thoughts on him?
Yeah, he's a good coach, but I'm not sure he's the best tactician in the league. I don't
What
think
do you
he's a
mean by
better
tactician?
by tactician. I mean like coming up with schemes. I don't think he's a very good play caller, but he delegates that, and I think he plays the role he plays well.
I tend to agree with that. I do think towards the end of last year, he did make Jared Goff's job a lot easier. And I give him, but also Ben Johnson, a lot of credit for that. For those of you who are unaware, Ben Johnson is Detroit's offensive coordinator. Now back to the winners
I
once
expected him
again.
to be at least in the running for a head coach job, and for him to decline. interviews shows a lot about Dan Campbell and what they're building there.
Yeah, it's just like how much they've improved over the last 2.5 years. Ever since the Matt Patricia, Bob Quinn era, they've turned that franchise around completely. And credit to Brad Holmes, truly. He just came in there, he drafted Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown in his first draft. Sure, 2021 was a train wreck for the most part, but they showed heart, and they're a team that never gives up. My next team, holding the first overall pick in the draft. I loved what Carolina did this offseason.
They're
What do
my
you?
favorites to win the NFC South.
They're not as of now, but like if they choose if they take the quarterback who I think is
It's
QB
the
one, which
favorite
we'll
in that
get to,
division to you.
um
Just
I
just wondering.
I think the Saints are gonna win the division.
Respect.
I think they all have like equal chances. Generally though. But I think adding Adam Thielen is an under the radar move. Like Adam Thielen, his best days are clearly behind him, and he's more of a wide receiver 2, even 3 at this point. But I still think he's experienced. He's a very good red zone threat, and I think that's something Carolina's been needing for a while. Did I love trading away DJ Moore? Not really, but to get the first pick, I do think it's justified. Carolina's been looking for a true franchise bona fide quarterback ever since Cam Newton's best days were behind him in 2018. And I think with the Bryce Young or CJ Stroud at the helm, they could potentially be in the running for a division title next year. Hayden Hurst and Miles Sanders were also two sneaky signings, which I liked, and they're going to make the rookie QB's job a lot easier. For your last team, Sam, what other team do you think had a solid offseason?
I'm gonna say the New York Giants.
New York Giants? Explain.
Other than resigning Jones and putting the tender on Barkley, they made a lot of good moves. Um, a Warrior they got from Detroit.
I want to talk about Aurier a little bit now, but in another episode where I talk about players that were excellent in 2021 and completely fell off a cliff in 2022. But I think Aurier under Wink
Didn't he
Martindale's
get like a
team,
bunch of interceptions this
yeah,
year? No.
I think he could bounce back. He was getting cooked left and right last year, so I don't think he was very good. At least from what I saw. Um,
I like the Darren Waller trade. And they added some decent receivers to get to for Jones to throw the ball to, Harris Campbell being one of them.
My issue with the Giants offseason, and I do not think it was a bad one by any means, their offensive line is still in shambles at the moment. Andrew Thomas is a superstar at this point, in my opinion, one of the best tackles in football. However, Evan Neal is unproven, and while I think he's going to show signs of improvement as a sophomore, it's still unknown to be whether how
I
good he
do
can
see
be.
a lot of Andrew Thomas in Evan Neal, especially the first year. Andrew Jones was terrible in 2020. Let's just be
Yeah, like,
honest.
but yeah, both Thomas and Neal were pretty bad their rookie years, but I think they could go down similar path. My issue is more so the interior.
I do agree with that.
Mm-hmm. And my favorites to win the AFC East right now, and who I think had the
Over
probably
Buffalo?
no, I have Miami. Um, oh yeah, oh like this picture is meant to show Devin Singletary. I couldn't find a Texans image of him, but I think
Just
Miami's the
because
best
no
team.
Texans image of him exists.
Yeah, you're right. I figured there'd be like a jersey swap somewhere, but this is the best thing I chose. Jalen Ramsey makes that defense a top 10 unit. Vic Fangio, too. They're going from a not so great defensive coordinator in Boyer to one of the best in football, one of the smartest minds, Vic Fangio. He was with that Bears team in 2018. And while they had the business being a top 10 defense, they were quite easily the best business in football defense in the NFL and quite honestly carry that team to playoff berth at 12-4. Therefore, I think Fangio can make this defense a top 7 unit with stars such as Xavier Howard, Javon Holland, and now Jalen Ramsey. Adding a stout defensive line with players such as Christian Wilkins and Jalen Phillips, and a couple solid linebackers with the addition of David Long and Jerome Baker, this defense is overpowered with star talent. And while it could take some time to get acclimated to a new system for some of the players, especially the younger ones, I still think it's going to be a successful year in Miami, both offensively and defensively. Now, on the flip side of things, who do you think are some of the biggest losers?
Baltimore. Baltimore is a big loser for me. I don't think Philadelphia is as big of a loser as they're being made out to be.
I think the only reason why Philadelphia is a loser in this case is because their Super Bowl window, it's open for, I don't think it's open for that long, because I think a lot of their talented players, such as like Jason Kelce, Lane Johnson, they're all getting up there in age, and having a franchise quarterback certainly pays massive dividends for that franchise. And kudos to Howie Roseman. He's done a tremendous job developing that offense. The defense is what kind of scares me heading into 2023. Next up, my biggest loser out of all of them this offseason are the Baltimore Ravens. And I'm going to explain why. Eric DeCosta and that front office have done a awful job this offseason. Is all of it their fault? I don't think so. But do you want to explain why Baltimore, like, why their offseason has been so disastrous?
They're kind of lost. They say they want Lamar around, but they're not willing to give him what he wants. And in this era of football, if you don't have a legitimate franchise quarterback, you're not going anywhere. As we can see with some of these mediocre teams like New Orleans, the whole NFC South as a whole, the Jets.
Yeah,
As talented as your team is, you're not going anywhere without a franchise QB.
Yeah, like quarterbacks. There's this notion around the NFL that quarterback wins are a quarterback stat and wins are a team stat. I don't think they're QB stat. That being said, I still think if you have the fourth best QB in your own division,
I do understand why Baltimore will be hesitant on paying the big bucks because he's been injured each of the past 2 years.
but I'm solely taking that risk just because of the alternative options. They're so limited, especially with Rodgers available. I would have said maybe go after him, but now they're left with a late first round quarterback. Like, if I had a guess who's going to be Baltimore's week one starter next year, I'm going to go with Hendon Hooker, and we'll get to that later on. But I think Lamar is either going to hold out or they'll find a place for him because I think Lamar is truly fed up with that team. This is what he said on March 2nd. You want to read it?
In regards to my future plans, as of March 2nd, I requested a trade from the Ravens organization for which the Ravens has not been interested in meeting my value. And anyone that has met me or been around me know that I love the game of football and my dream is to help a team.
So by this quote, what do you think Lamar is kind of referencing?
Pay me or I'm getting the fuck out the door.
Yeah, I think that's pretty obviously his message here. It's really clear that he wants the big bucks. He wants over $40 million a year. Do I think he's worth that? I think he's worth right around that. He's probably the sixth or seventh best QB in the NFL. And if
I
you
don't
can
think
say
Deshaun Watson's as talented as him, but he got that money
he got
because
that
the
money
Browns
in
are fucking
Cleveland, he got the
stupid.
bag. But that Andrew Berry was like truly desperate last offseason. I really can't blame him too much, but it
But
was a
that
really
doesn't matter to Lamar. Does that
yeah.
matter to Lamar? No.
No,
He
I don't
feels like
think
he's
so.
better than that than
I
those
think he's
quarterbacks.
much
Therefore,
better
he
than
should get
Deshaun
that.
Watson. And I think he's well worth for like 35, 40 million. It's just the front office. We've seen even they've been cheap spenders recently. Aside from the Marcus Williams signing last offseason, who have they really brought in? They brought in Nelson Aguilar, who's a wide receiver 4 at best.
And
So,
they completely overpaid for Odell Beckham.
oh yeah, I forgot about that. I would have given him maybe a third, like half. I would have given him 8 or 9 million. 18 million is absolutely absurd for just 1 year, especially someone coming off an ACL tear. All right. One before we move on, another loser are the Buffalo Bills, in my opinion. With the Jets most likely getting Aaron Rodgers and the Dolphins adding marquee talent to their team, the Buffalo Bills are stuck, in my opinion. And they're consistently for the next few years, they're going to be a playoff team. They're going to win 11, 12 games. But I don't think they've done enough to go into Kansas City and beat them there, or even beat the
They
Bengals
did it
in
during the regular season.
regular season. But come playoff time, I just
Fair,
don't think.
fair point. Well, they have to get there too, and they didn't do that.
Yeah.
That not only did they not do it, they got blown out in doing so.
What do you think of the Bills off season?
It wasn't a good off season.
Yeah.
Edmonds is replaceable. I'll
He's
admit.
replaceable, but I think not adding a wide receiver too. I like Gabe Davis a lot, but he's the number three
Who are they going
too.
to get?
Like I would send the late first for Hopkins, honestly.
There are potential rumors that Stephon Diggs may be on his way out.
If that happens, I wouldn't be shocked if this Buffalo team is a wild card team or even worse next year.
Josh Allen will be able to carry Buffalo to the playoffs. That's proven.
Yeah. All right. And finally, the running back market. Do you agree with this? Because I think it's
Yeah,
yeah. But this
especially with what happened to Barkley.
mhm. Saquon Barkley. There was even like Jerick McKinnon coming out and saying like, "Why hasn't a team paid me?" And he's 30, so it's understandable, but he's still a solid pass catching guy. He's a solid backup for any team that needs one. So I think just like teams are being more cautious of the ages and like the frequent injuries that these players are having. All right, we're gonna move on to the NBA now. Our playoff predictions and um pull up a bracket. All
And
right.
as we are recording right now, the OKC New Orleans game is playing out right now with New Orleans up 6.
Yep, it's a tight game. It could go either way. But um in the meantime, Sam, why don't you go first? Who do you think will be the number 8 seed in the Western Conference?
Minnesota.
Why do you think that's the case?
They get Gobert back for this game between either OKC or New Orleans, and I don't think that they have the talent to match up,
Yeah. I
especially
think
with
that
no Zion.
I think that the number 8 seed is going to be the New Orleans Pelicans. I think that the Pelicans are going to win tonight, and I think they're going to win on Friday, ultimately giving them that 8 seed.
That's fair.
However, I do think Denver is going to beat them, albeit it will be quite a competitive series. Even without Zion Williamson and he's a freak of nature. I think if the Pelicans had Zion, they'd be a top 4 seed right now. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I do agree.
Yeah.
I do. Yeah,
They still have some solid pieces such as Brandon Ingram, Herbert Jones, Jose Alvarado, and CJ McCollum. That being said, Denver and 6.
I agree.
You think 6?
Yeah, I do think 6 over Minnesota.
All right, this matchup I'm really looking forward to. It's already set in stone. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George,
Paul
Kevin
George is going to
Durant.
be out the first couple of games. Keep in mind.
Yeah, Kawhi Leonard, just he's nothing special now, but Russell Westbrook, Devin Booker, KD. What do you got?
2006.
This is going to be a clash. Two offensive powerhouses that had a bit of a disappointing regular season, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, Phoenix didn't really have the chance to get off the ground.
They had a bunch of injuries, like they went through a lot, and so did the Clippers. So I don't think it's justified to say that it was a major disappointment.
If someone goes down for Phoenix, oh boy.
That being said, in a tight series with back and forth, thrilling finishes, I'm gonna take the Phoenix Suns in 7. All right, big series. I'm desperately rooting for the Kings here. I really want to see Mike Brown get to the next round, but ultimately, I do not think it's gonna happen. At least this year. What do you think?
I agree. Although this is going to be the best series of the first round, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I
Um,
have Golden State winning in 7.
I have Golden State winning in 6. I think the Kings defense has been pretty bad as of late, honestly, and their offensive firepower is undeniable with De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, even Keegan Murray setting the 3-point record as a rookie. Those are all really coveted sacred pieces of that team. However, I think the Warriors in their experience, especially coaching wise, is just going to get the best of them, especially on that home floor at Chase Center. And finally, Memphis and LA. What do you have, Sam?
I have Memphis in 7. I don't think the
Explain.
Lakers are good enough to take down Memphis.
Yeah.
And they have no one to guard Ja.
LeBron James, I've been torn on this, but LeBron James hasn't gotten swept many times in his NBA career. As a matter of fact, the last time I can recall him getting swept is the 2018 NBA Finals when he truly had no help around him.
They
Outside of
almost stole game 1 in Golden State, if you remember.
no 20, oh yeah, and then J.R. Smith decided to be wild J.R. Smith.
Even if George Hill made that free throw, they win that game.
Yeah.
Well, who knows what happens in the final seconds, but
All right. That being said, I ultimately think this series will be a sweep, and I think Memphis will go to round 2.
Sweep. There are a
Yeah,
lot of people who say that the Lakers win that series.
I'm not on board with that for two main reasons. Number one, I'm not a Darvin Ham believer. Never have I been. I don't think I will be for a while. His rotations this year were really confusing at times. Do I love the Rui Hachimura move? Absolutely not. And Austin Reeves is quite a solid player, but to rely on him and Anthony Davis to stay healthy for an entire series, as crazy as that sounds, is kind of unrealistic. Next round. We both have Denver and Phoenix, so what do you have?
I have Phoenix winning the series in 6.
Explain why.
I feel like Denver's defense is going to struggle with KD and Booker, and they're going to be too much for Denver to handle.
This series, it really boils down to two things for me. Whether Jokic's defensive presence can be reestablished, or can the Suns be up to full health? And I think if the Suns aspect comes true and the Nuggets aspect doesn't, this series could be over pretty rapidly for Denver.
It could be a sweep like it was in 2021.
Vice versa, I think it could be the other way around. But that being said, I'm going to take Denver in 7. I think this series is going to be really tight. It's going to be fun to watch, like back and forth games, as I mentioned with the Clippers and Suns series. And I think ultimately Kevin Durant's first year in Phoenix is going to be known as a major disappointment. Golden State, Memphis. What do you have and why?
I have Memphis in 7, or excuse me, 6.
Why?
I feel like Golden State's really been coasting this year, and I feel like it's going to come back and bite them when they Golden State's 1-21 in against teams over 500 on the road. And I think
Their
that'll come back
road,
to hurt them in
yeah.
the series.
Their record away from home this year was atrocious, and I do believe that is going to hurt them in the playoffs. However, I do think the Warriors are just the more capable team when it comes to playoff time. If this was a regular season series, I honestly would take the Grizzlies. However, Stephen Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Andrew Wiggins, they all have that experience. And especially those core three of Thompson, Curry, and Klay. I don't think Ja Morant's play is sustainable in the postseason. And with players such as Dillon Brooks constantly like jacking up threes and and injuries to Steven Adams, I just don't think this series is going to go very well for Memphis at all. Golden State wins in 5. So Denver, Memphis, who do you have winning that?
I had Phoenix and Memphis.
Oh, Phoenix and Memphis.
I have the Memphis Grizzlies winning this series in 7 games.
You have Memphis going to the NBA Finals.
I do. I really think that this is the year that the Grizzlies do it.
I think
It's been progressively going forward every year, and I think I have a problem with Phoenix has not really played together.
Yeah, and that we saw that was an issue with Brooklyn, but all right, my Western Conference Finals pick to nobody's surprise, is the Golden State Warriors. I think this is going to be a 6-game series. It's going to be pretty intense, but I think Golden State's coach. I don't think Kerr's a better coach than Malone, but in the playoffs, I think he's certainly capable of being a better one. And I think Steph Curry is going to have an awesome series, and players such as Draymond Green and Jonathan Kuminga will step up big time. Moving on to the East, Chicago or Miami? Who do you have?
Miami, easily.
I also have Miami pretty easily. Milwaukee, Miami.
I'm going Milwaukee in 6.
What makes you think it's going to go to 6?
Miami's playoff experience.
This Heat team does not inspire me at all. Jimmy Butler, 6 for 19 last night. Tyler Herro, he's a good player, but he can be inconsistent at times. Bam Adebayo struggled last night. I'm taking Milwaukee in 4. I don't think it'll be particularly close either. Eric Spoelstra is a phenomenal head coach, but I just don't think this particular Miami team is built for the playoffs at all. And their regular season was very disappointing in my opinion, as I had NBA Finals aspirations for them coming into the year. But I could be proven wrong. He's a phenomenal coach, and they do have experience, as you said. All right, you talk on this series first, and then I'm going to go for a while on this for obvious reasons.
I have the Cavs in 7 here because I feel like these are 2 evenly matched teams. But the Knicks don't have the defense to really build pressure, and I don't think they have anyone for Donovan Mitchell.
All right. These teams are dead even, in my opinion. They're dead even in talent. I think Donovan Mitchell's better than Jalen Brunson, but they're pretty close. Both have had remarkable seasons with their new teams. Julius Randle, I think he's going to be a better playoff performer this time around. Would you agree with that?
Julius Randle being a poor playoff performer?
No, a better playoff performer this time around.
I'm going to say more of the same because of the injury.
Jury? I think Randle, he's not going to be the superstar player in the postseason, but he's going to be at least above
He's
average.
the second option.
Yeah. Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, that offensive firepower is scary. The Knicks, though, even with players such as Emmanuel Quickly and Quentin Grimes, who's really come onto the scene as of late, this is like even. That being said, though, I do not trust one man, the elephant in the room, Tom Thibodeau. His rotations have been questionable all year and all throughout his Knicks tenure. And I think Cleveland with bigger staff, even though he's not the greatest coach, they just do have a slight coaching advantage. And that's why I'm going to take Cleveland to advance in 7. All right. What do you got for this one as a Nets fan?
Sixers in 5.
Why?
Because the Nets just straight up aren't good enough.
I love what the Nets, honestly, I love how the Nets have played as of late. I like Cam Johnson. I like
the Nets could have completely bottomed out and tanked for the pick, but
they
didn't.
I honestly like this Nets team. They have a little bit of that 18-19 team in them, but do I think it's sustainable for the postseason? Absolutely not. I also have Philly in 5.
They're going to get 1 Mikal Bridges masterclass, maybe 2 if they're lucky.
I think it's going to be 1, and I think it's going to be similar to 2019. It's going to be game 1 on the road.
Are we in agreement that Boston's beating Atlanta in 5?
I was thinking 5 too. Yep. Why do you think so?
Trae Young's going to have a masterclass in one of the Atlanta home games.
Yeah. I just think that Atlanta home crowd is going to heckle Boston too much to the point where Tatum's going to have an awful game, and who knows with Jaylen Brown at this point. He doesn't seem like he really wants to be there, but he's such a major asset of that team, and I think that those two together will be just too much for Atlanta. Milwaukee and Cleveland, what do you have?
It's Milwaukee winning the series in 5.
5? Interesting. Why do you think Milwaukee dominates?
I don't think they have enough up front, to be honest. Yes, Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley are great, but this is their first playoffs this is their first playoff run without LeBron in years.
All right.
Since
This
the
is my
90s,
upset
actually.
of the playoffs. Mike Budenholzer, aside from that 2020 run and probable run, has not been a great playoff coach whatsoever. With Giannis at the helm, anything is truly possible. He's one of the best players we've seen in quite some time. Athletic freak, one of the best defensive players too we've seen in a while. However, I just think Cleveland's offense is going to be too much in general. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to have a very solid series, and Darius Garland running the floor, throwing lobs up to Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. I think it's going to be too much. Cleveland is going to take this in 6. All right, what do you got for this one? Two rivals.
Boston in 7.
7. What do you think of this series overall, though? Because I think it could be pretty exciting.
I'm gonna hate every moment of this series because I hate
Yeah.
both
Oh,
these
yeah.
teams with a burning passion.
Even though Knicks and Nets fans hate each other, we both can come into agreement in hating both these teams as well.
But I hate the Sixers a little more. I
I
do
hate
think
Boston a
Harden
little more.
does his usual James Harden things in this series and will be the main cause of Philly's downfall.
I think
Philly does not have much longer their with the way they're currently constructed.
my issue with Philly, and it's a pretty big one. The talent is obviously there. Joel Embiid is a premier, one of the best players in the NBA right now. He's probably the front runner for the MVP award. And James Harden is a capable playoff performer. Has he been a great one? Not necessarily, but I think this time around he's going to be more efficient, careful with the ball, and a better distributor. I don't think he'll be a super impactful scorer, but I think he's going to be more careful, more conservative. And I think the pieces around them are solid as well, such as Tyrese Maxey and actually, yeah, I have another point. I don't love their depth at all. I don't love like Niang. I don't love Tobias Harris. Who else do they have?
Fuck. Shake Milton, is he still there?
I'm not even sure, but yeah, that's a testament. So this is Doc Rivers' final straw. If they cannot get past the second round, I think he's gone as and I think he'll be extremely justified. He has not been a great coach at all in Philly, and the talent is clearly the only thing keeping him there. As a result, I'm gonna take Boston in a pretty commanding series win, 5 games.
5.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm not a believer in this Philly team whatsoever, especially just because of Mr. Rivers. All right, Milwaukee, Boston. What do you got?
I have Boston in 6.
Why? Why do you think it'll be the same result as last year?
Because both these teams are pretty much the same. I like Boston's depth more than I like Milwaukee's depth.
I want to talk about one player in particular, but what are your thoughts on Peyton Pritchard? I think he's really has potential to be a sneaky 6 man there.
He's decent.
Yeah, I think in that last game of the season, his true potential was shown. Especially shot creating, shooting. He's not an excellent player, but he's certainly capable. But I think I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers will find themselves in familiar territory for the first time in 5 years, which is none other than the NBA Finals.
Wow.
In a 7 game series, I think they split the first 2. They split the first 4.
And OKC ties the game.
OKC, OKC and Shea Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, can that young team get the job done? I don't think they will, but it will be interesting to see. If that Thunder team makes the playoffs, I don't think they'll go very far, but they're still going to be a joy to watch. Watching young up and coming teams play is a joy.
I get a lot of the 2010 Thunder vibes from them.
I do too. I think next year is their year to be. I think they could be a top 6, 7 seed next year. Um, the Cleveland in 7, and then what's your final? Oh, Memphis, Boston. What do you have?
Boston 6.
Who's your finals MVP and why?
By finals MVP is Jaylen Brown.
Interesting. Why him over Tatum?
I feel like he has the better performances. It's not that the Tatum won't be good. It's just that I think that Dylan Brooks will do well defending him and shadow him for some of the games.
All right. My 2023 NBA Finals pick. Let's dive into each of these teams. 2015, these teams faced off. Golden State won. 2016, the infamous LeBron quote, Cleveland. 2017 and 2018 were both pretty easily won by those guys down there in the Bay Area. This time around, each squad looks a little bit different. Golden State brings back, obviously, Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, two crucial parts of that organization for the past decade. Cleveland, though, is totally revamped with players such as Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, and Evan Mobley getting their first taste at playoff experience. And I think they're going on a pretty deep run here. I'm going to answer this question first down here, and I think game one's going to be very tight. I think it's going to be a 4-point game coming out to the final seconds, final minute, as a matter of fact. But I think in the end, the NBA trophy is going to head back to Ohio. And I think that the Cleveland Cavaliers are going to be victorious this year. I think they're going to win in 6. My finals MVP is none other than Donovan Mitchell in his first year as a Cav. I think he's going to prove everyone wrong and show the world why he is a top 15 player in the league.
I think this is worse than your Titans Cowboys Super Bowl pick from a couple of years ago.
I think I like to go bold sometimes. Sometimes my picks are a bit
It's
generic.
Golden State's a good pick, regardless of what I picked.
What do you think? How about this? What do you think the ceiling for this Cleveland team is?
Conference finals.
Finals. All right. We're gonna save the mock draft for next time due to time constraints, but so we'll end here on that note. But we thank you all for listening today, and we'll be back next time with some more NFL content.